Okay, thanks everybody. We're talking about Social Security. How many people are not on Social Security yet? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so that means everyone else is. Now, here's my caveat. I am not necessarily an expert in Social Security because most of my clients, by the time I've met with them, or have already been on Social Security. Most of you know our average client's like 75, and so by the time a lot of the clients I've met with, they're already on Social Security, so we didn't want a whole lot to talk about. But now we're inheriting clients, we're inheriting the children of clients, and even the grandchildren, and even the great-grandchildren. It's just really amazing. And also, we're working with younger people who have not yet taken Social Security. So it's a big topic. And there's been a lot of changes over the years. Let's talk about housekeeping. If you have a cell phone, if you would just do us a favor and put that on vibrate or mute so it doesn't interfere with anyone else. Appreciate that. And we are recording this, so if you miss something, don't feel like you have to take notes diligently. This will be up on YouTube hopefully in the next day or two, so you can always go back and listen to it. It's probably pretty short today because I wanted to leave some question and answer at the end for the economy. How many people have been paying attention to the economy recently? Yeah, right. A couple of things that are out there right now, this virus and the economy, right? And that's pretty much all we're hearing about right now. So we'll talk about that stuff. Just quickly, disclosures, some stuff here from the folks at the legal team. Take some time and read that. Thank you. And we're going to talk about these different things. So just sort of an introduction about Social Security. I mean, Social Security has been around for a while. Our parents had it. Some of our grandparents had it. And we're just going to talk about, the 101s of Social Security and ways to maximize those benefits. Some laws were changed in 2015 that Obama signed into law that have made some changes, and we'll talk about those. And then just maybe a few, and of course, time for some questions. But Social Security basically came out of the Great Depression. Anybody remember that? Okay. Pretty rough time. The central bank was founded in 1917, just in time for us to get into World War I. World War I created a lot of massive inflation, and then that sort of set up the crash of 1929. And the crash of 1929, very, very bad. And then aftermath of that was even worse because it was a massive, what we would call a Great Depression. Remember, anybody ever read the Grapes of Wrath? Yeah. I don't remember much about it because I was in high school and I hated that book. But I remember it seemed to be about these people had some real hard living out in the Dust Bowl, and times were tough, right? And a lot of people didn't have a Social Security. They didn't have anybody to fall back on. My wife's from Brazil, and when I go down there, you can see that family members who have issues, medical issues, because you can't get in to see a doctor, so you have to, take care of it yourself. But you got medical issues, financial issues, social issues, family issues, whatever it may be. You seem to they have a huge extended family, And I was talking to some clients, and it used to be like that back in the 50s here, and even prior to that. But we were talking about that, and it seemed like World War II kind of changed that, because after World War II, women were in the workplace, and then jobs were kind of scattered all over America, and they'd come back from the war and they'd have a specialty, but it was with Bell Aircraft, and they were up in New Jersey. And that's what happened to my grandfather. And so then a lot of the people started moving around the country, and so we became sort of more of a mobile society. And all of a sudden, we don't have our extended neighbors and our extended family living next door. We can just go next door and get some help, right? You had a question?
Social Security also added to the fact that the parents had an income coming in, so they said, I can travel, go somewhere else, look for a job.
I think that also started where the mobility of the Americans.
Yeah, the mobility of America really happened after that. So Ida Mae Fuller was the first Social Security recipient in 1940. Ida Mae Fuller. So from 1935, who signed that, by the way, in the law? FDR, that's right. And that was part of the New Deal. Then all the way from 1935 to 1975, the payments were kind of stagnant. They didn't change. So once you hit your retirement date at 65, here's your payment, and it didn't change. But a lot changed between 1935 and 1975, right? Remember, we came off the gold standard in 1971, and what was going on there at the end of the 60s? Inflation, but what else? The Vietnam War was going on. And so we were printing a lot of money to pay for that war, and that's why we had to come off the gold standard, because the gold had been pegged at $35 an ounce back in 1945 at the Bretton Woods Agreement after World War II, and it was just static. How stupid was that, right? So gold is being pegged at $35 an ounce all the while we're printing this money. Well, the French and other Europeans, but particularly the French, figured out that they could come over here and buy our gold for $35 an ounce, take it back over to Europe and sell it for $70. We were hemorrhaging. We lost half of our gold during that period of time. So Nixon is one of my least favorite presidents, but I can't blame him for taking us off the gold standard because he had to, because we were hemorrhaging. But that's when Social Security started the COLA. Remember the COLA, cost of living increase? Well, what's the COLA pegged to? Inflation. But where do we get that inflation rate? Right. The Bureau of Labor and Statistics, right? And it's a government bureau, and they say inflation right now is what? Well, yeah, I guess it's picked up a little bit officially, maybe 2% now, right? Is it really 2%? Has anybody been to the grocery store? Those guys that do that, they don't buy groceries, apparently. Now, yes, I know oil is down right now, and energy is a big part of that formula that they put together. But inflation is picking up. Finally, in 2000, they signed a law, the freedom of seniors to work, because it used to be true that if you were getting Social Security, you were penalized if you were working. But finally, in 2000, they said, okay, if you're 65, you're full retirement age, and you want to work, we're not going to penalize you. Now, they do penalize you if you're under your full retirement age, and we'll talk more about that. Then finally, in 2015, Obama made some changes, and there were some advanced claiming strategies that were eliminated, and this is one of those file and suspend that, you may have some friends that are bragging about, hey, we did file and suspend, and you're wondering, well, why I can't do that? Well, we'll talk about that. But after 2005, a lot of those advanced strategies have been eliminated. Now, if we look at, the average American out there, and I know that my clients are very fortunate. A lot of my clients are very, very fortunate. They've done very, very well, and we pick them, we select them based on their merit. But I also meet with a lot of people at just these 401k plans. For instance, you may not know this, but Voya does the 401k plan for Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz recently moved their North American headquarters from New Jersey down here to Abernathy Road. Anybody know about that? Have seen that building over there? So we go there quite often, and we'll meet with pretty much everybody, from the top executives all the way down to the rank and file. And we're talking to these people, and we're thinking about, what their retirement is. And we start talking to people that are in their 60s, and we start sort of calculating, where are we going to get our retirement income? Social Security is always a big part of it. And that for a lot of people is kind of where our cornerstone sort of sets ourselves. Okay, when are we going to start taking Social Security? Who among us is going to start taking it? And then how much is it going to be? Are we going to take it early, or are we going to delay? Right? So we'll talk more about that. But the other 2/3 comes from other stuff, pensions, a lot of 401ks, and just maybe some deferred comp that they've had, some other stuff that's out there. Also inheritances. We see a lot of inheritances these days. Because my grandmother's generation, that World War II generation, is now starting to pass assets down to the baby boomers. And the baby boomers are now starting to do what? Well, they've always been doing this, but they're really doing it. Aging, right? They're aging, and the baby boomers like comfort. They like comfort, and they're not afraid to spend money on themselves like the grandparents were. My grandmother wouldn't turn on the light when she walked into a room. She wouldn't go out to eat at a restaurant unless it was like Piccadilly or Morrison's. You know the type, right? That World War, they just wouldn't spend any money on themselves or anybody. But then their kids were able to break that, and they don't have a problem spending money on themselves. So, Social Security 101. Who is eligible for Social Security? Well, it's primarily three groups. The first group is the most obvious, retired workers. That's a lot of you in here, and some of you who are facing that. Also, spousal benefits. So the workers, say the spouse didn't work at all, she has benefits based, or he or she has benefits based on the working spouse's benefits, without giving any thought to, oh, Roz, I didn't see you there. Everybody say hello to Roz. You got to wave, Roz. I didn't see you there this whole time. Roz handles all our accounts. If you want money, you want to get it into your account. Roz is an important person. Sorry, Roz. And then there's the survivor benefits. So obviously, you have your spousal benefits, but spouse passes away, then you have the survivor benefits. And those can be two different things. Benefits calculated. How does this work? Well, a lot of people tell me, it's 40 quarters of work. What's a quarter? 3 months, right. So there's four, thank you, very good. There's 4 quarters in a year, right? So what does this tell us? Well, you got to work for 10 years in order to qualify for Social Security. And then the way they calculate is they take their 35 highest earning years and they average those out. And that's how they get to your base, what's called your primary insurance amount. We call it that. We'll just call it our full retirement amount. So for most people that are retiring now, their full retirement age is what? 67, right? Right. Used to be 66, then before that was 65. But people who are retiring now are at 67, that's their full retirement age. So then you have options. Do I want to take it early or do I want to take it late? And we'll talk about. So if I take it early, the earliest I can take it is age 62. If I take it early, I'm going to take a penalty. The penalty that I take will be somewhere between 25 to 30%, depending on my age. If I'm 67 and I'm taking it, that's my full retirement age, and I take it at 62, I'm giving up a third. I'm giving up 30%. Okay? Now here's where I'm coming from on this. When did you start working, Robert? Age 18? About 18? Okay, I'm going to say 20. So Robert worked from age 20, and I'm just going to make this up, so say age 20 to 65. Okay? How long is that? 45 years. He worked for 45 years to get his full retirement amount, right? Now, if he takes it at age 62, 4 years early, he's giving up 25% of his Social Security for 4 years. So 25% of 45 years, Shamps, is how much?
6%.
Okay, well, 12 years. About 12 years, right? So he's trading in 12 years of labor for 4 years of early payments. You see what I'm saying? I don't think that's a fair trade. I sure don't. So if my full retirement age is, say, 66, I get 100% of my benefit. That's my goal at least, right? If I take it early, then for every year I'm taking it early, I'm really giving up maybe 4 years of my labor, maybe 3 at least. That's not a good deal, you know. That's not a good deal. Now it is a good deal if for some premonition you know you're going to die at 70. If for some reason you know you're not going to live, then that's a better way to go.
So even 62, the same rationale would apply. If you're in ill health, then you
That's right.
want to take it.
Yeah, if you're in ill health, or you just, I don't know, for whatever reason, you just happen to know you're not going to live maybe past 75, then you might want to take it early. Age 80 is really sort of the cutoff. That's the crossover. If you're going to live to age 80, then you're better off waiting till age 70 to take it, or at least age 66, your full retirement age. But for every year that you delay after your full retirement age, you get an 8% increase in your payment that you get for life. That is a good deal, assuming, you know, taking inflation out of it. But that's, inflation is the same for everybody. But in the commercial world, in the financial commercial world, an 8% increase guaranteed that's paid for life is very hard to come by without substantial risk. And there's no risk. The only risk here is that you die early, right? Okay, questions about that? Okay, so I do get questions from time to time about people who are working. Maybe they want to work in a flower store or just, work at Hallmark or somewhere. There's reductions in your benefits based on your income limit and also your age. So all that really matters is once you've hit full retirement age, you're free to do whatever you want. You can work as much as you want and earn as much as you want. There's no reduction. That's the only, once you hit your full retirement age, everything is great. It's only between age 62 and your full retirement age that we have these issues, which is a reduction of your benefits. So first off, you don't want to take your Social Security early anyway, is my first rule, unless we have some sort of extenuating circumstance. And secondly, if you're earning income and you're still in your age 62, then you can only earn $17,000 a year before they start taking back $1 for every $2 you earn from Social Security, right? That's not real smart to do that, to take it early, number one, to penalize yourself for life, because once you take it early, that's it. You can't go back. Well, you can, but you have to pay all that money back, right, with interest.
But there's a limit to it too, right?
There's a limit as well, that's right. And I've never known anybody really to do that because it's like, oh, hell with it. I'm just going to keep going what I'm doing, right? But if you do take it early and you're working, then it even it compounds the problem. So I don't think anyone in here is going to be doing that on it. So, but what I do hear about and I get a lot of questions on, and this is something that is very common in our clientele, is taxation on this stuff. Okay, now think about this. You guys have been working, we've all been working, and I look at my check and I see Social Security's coming out of that check. I mean, essentially it's a tax, right? It's a tax on the money that I'm earning and it's coming out of there. And then it's going somewhere, I guess to DC somewhere, to the Department of Treasury, and they used to have that money sequestered, in its own trust fund, right? You know how much money's in that trust fund now? Zero. It's just a bunch of IOUs. IOUs are kind of like student loans. Right? Maybe you get some interest, but you're probably not going to get your principal back. But I will tell you this, last year I paid off my student loans, everybody, just so you know that. $120,000, $120,000. And I was paying 8.25% interest. Did you know that? I had to pay it off. I couldn't stand it. So anyway, based on whether you're single or married filing jointly, and depending on what your income is, and this is not adjusted gross income, this is what's called provisional income. And I'll talk about that in a second. A lot of people think that if you take, like, for instance, if we have Georgia municipal bonds that we own for our clients. And when you get interest from a Georgia municipal bond, you don't have to pay federal income taxes on it. You don't have to pay state income taxes on it. But it counts toward the taxes that you have to pay on your Social Security benefits. Did you know that? A little tricky, isn't it? A little bit tricky. So this interest-free municipal interest is tax-free, yeah, but it's counted toward the provisional income that we use to calculate the taxes on your Social Security. So if your provisional income is over $44,000 for almost everybody in here, and you're married filing jointly, then you're taxed at 85%. Now that's not the taxed rate. That means that if you're getting $1,000 a month from Social Security, that $850 of that's going to be taxable. 85% of your benefit is going over into the taxable column. But if you're single and you're able to just get maybe a few pensions and stuff like that, and your provisional income is under $25,000, then you're not going to pay any taxes at all, right? And in Georgia, if you're over 65, they don't tax your Social Security. Georgia's a great state for retirees. We love retirees here. Think about it. They don't drive during rush hour, right? They go to the grocery store on Tuesdays between 3 and 5 or 2 and 4. They pay their taxes. They have investments, right? They're not out, running up and down the streets at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, right? Senior citizens are the best. They vote, and they vote often, right? They always vote. So we like senior citizens, and we want to keep them in Georgia because we don't want them to go to Florida. Because you go to Florida, yeah, you don't have all those taxes, but guess what happens to your real estate taxes? Through the roof, right?
And sales tax.
And sales taxes, that's right. I mean, I see they're going to try to add some more sales tax here in Georgia, but let's all fight that. Okay, so now we're going to talk about maximizing those benefits. Again, let's assume that your retirement age is 66. This is basically how it works. Remember, 66 is your full retirement age. For every year that you take it early, you're giving up percentage, but every year that you delay, so you're getting an 8% increase up to age 70. Now, there's no reason to wait past age 70 because you're not going to get any more increase after that. So when you're 69 and 8 months, that's the time to start applying for your Social Security at age 70 because you want to make sure you get that check right on time and not delay at all, right? Make sense, Sheila? Yeah. So in real terms, in terms of dollars, just to see how that would be, if my full retirement age benefit was 66 and my benefit was $1,866, if I take it at age 62, I'm giving up $466. You see that per month? I mean, you can pay your cable for that, right? And maybe one cell phone, I don't know, maybe two. But look what happens if you delay to age 70. You've got an extra $1,000 a month for life. For life. And if you live to age 80, and if someone at least in the family lives to age 80, that's a win. That's a win. Does everybody see that? I know this is pretty simplistic, but you would be surprised and utterly shocked at how many people take it early. What was the percentage? Is Blake here? No. Do you remember this, Dale? What percentage of people actually take it early? Yeah, it's a surprising amount of people who take Social Security early. So, maximizing these benefits. Remember, we have a spousal benefit and we have a survivor benefit. What's the big difference between those two?
Survivor is the last living.
True. The big difference is the primary worker is still alive here, and here the primary worker has died. See that? Now, they call it aged out. Aged out. What does that mean? You died. you aged out. You did. Yeah. We call that the end of your human capital. Okay? So your human capital has depleted. What does that mean? Well, it means you died. Okay. So primary worker is still alive and has applied for Social Security benefits. If the spouse is under the full retirement age, then her benefit is going to be, or his benefit, I don't mean to be that way, that their benefit is going to be less as a percentage. So if you're full retirement age and she's 62 and she wants to take her spousal benefit, it's not going to be the full 50%, it's going to be reduced. Follow me? Okay. So same thing with the survivor benefit. If she's younger, then her benefit's not going to be the 100%. So the way we plan this is we look at if we have a couple, we look at a couple, and we look at usually the husband's older, and if he's maybe got a higher earnings, then we'll try to delay his benefit to age 70, take hers at full retirement age, and then usually, 80% of the time, the husband's predeceased the wife, hers drops away, and then she picks up his, which is the larger amount, and she continues to get paid that for as long as she lives. I've got clients living into their 90s. I've got clients living into their hundreds. My grandma died at almost 102. So we have to plan. I've got to plan for people living a lot longer, despite the viruses that may again. So there's also these things out there called family maximums. And generally the family maximum comes into play when you have multiple people in the house, not just a husband and a wife, but maybe you have a disabled child, or maybe you had a husband that died and the children are getting benefits from his payment, but then all of a sudden she gets remarried and another man comes into the house, and now everybody in the house is getting Social Security. He's getting some, they're getting some, she's getting some off of him. You see what I'm saying? It can happen. So in that case, they institute what's called the family maximum. And basically it works like this. There's just a total maximum number that the total of people in the household can earn. And it's usually somewhere between 150 to 190% of the primary worker's amount, right? I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but you know, if you have a lot of kids, grandkids, disabled people, dependents, all those are living in the house, just know that we just can't keep stacking those Social Security checks. Eventually there's going to be a limit. And that's one of the things that you know, we're trying to do to balance our deficit. Who knows what our deficit is today? What about our debt? How much is our debt? How much? How did you know that? Linda, oh, I get it. You live with Brian. That's how you know. On your own? Okay. Great job, great job. So it's always good to know, you know. And we're just going to pass that debt on down to our kids and grandkids? Is that the plan? I guess it is, right? There's no, I mean, I don't see that we're not, no, it doesn't matter if it's a Republican or Democrat, we're not paying it off. We're just going in deeper and deeper and deeper into debt. I guess if we have negative interest rates and they're negative enough that we can start paying it down? I don't know. Any questions about the family maximum? Okay. So in 2015, like I say, Obama signed a law that helped, thanks, there's a plan, that helped to, well, it was designed, I guess, to bring in some of the extra spend. This slide is there to remind all of you what you could have had, but you didn't get. But some of you may have, and I think that's why I wanted to leave it in there, because there used to be something called file and suspend. And the husband, for instance, would go ahead and file at age 66, and the wife would, and then the wife would be able to get his benefit, but in the meantime, she could let hers delay until she was 70, and he could wait till he was 70, and then she could switch from the one she was on into the new one, and then he can get the higher payout too. But all of that was put aside in 2015, and so now essentially, if you were younger than 62 at the end of 2015, it's not going to work. It's no longer going to work for you. So there's people that got grandfathered in. Yes, they were lucky, and I know we had a lot of clients that were right there on the cusp, and we worked hard to get them in time. But yeah, if you were younger than 66 on May 16th or May 2016, it's over. So, but you may hear of friends talking to other people that, hey, we did this file and suspend thing. So if they did it in time, you know, they're good. It's still working for them. They're still able to delay, and it's working for them. But, you know, they had to cut it off somewhere, and that's the bright line rule right there, May 1st, 2016. And again, I wanted to reiterate this point because if you do the math, right, and we have a couple, and both are age 65 or age 66, and we look at their plan together, it really makes a lot of sense to delay the higher earning payer's benefit to age 70, because there's a good chance that one of them will at least live to age 80. And chances are they'll live well past that. Does that make sense? Everybody? So a lot of times we'll meet with people and they're retiring, and they're like, gosh, I'm retiring at age, say, 65 or 66, and I don't want to take my Social Security because I would like for that to delay. I got that. That makes a lot of sense, but how am I going to live? I got to have some income, you know? I would rather take money out of the 401k plan or out of the IRA to compensate that for that first maybe 4 years from 66 to 70, that little space there. I'd rather take money out of the plan to cover that and then let that Social Security benefit grow, right? Because nowhere in the world are you going to get an 8% guaranteed increase that's locked in and payable for life. And I know that there's the solvency and the inflation and all that stuff. Social Security is not going to go away. Those benefits are not going to go away. They're just going to print more money to pay for them is all. I mean, that's historically what all of these countries do. Any questions about this? So excluded resources, now we're coming back to that provisional income I was talking about, right? Remember, the provisional income is the income calculation that not necessarily we're going to pay taxes on, but that's the amount that we figure to determine how much of your Social Security benefit is taxable. Remember? Okay, so how do we do that? Well, the first thing that we look at is the adjusted gross income, all right? Also called modified adjusted gross income. Why is it modified? Well, it's modified because that tax-exempt interest that doesn't show up in the adjusted gross income comes into play with the modified adjusted gross income. Okay, and to make matters better, then we take 50% of your Social Security benefit and add that in. So this is kind of the formula that we use. So we take your AGI, and we take the tax-exempt interest that you don't have to pay interest on or taxes on, and we put that in the calculation, and then we take 50% of your Social Security benefit and put that in the calculation, and whatever that number is, remember that determines of whether or not you're paying 0, 50%, or 85% of that benefit becoming taxable. That's not the tax rate, that's just the percentage of the benefit that becomes taxable. Does everybody follow that? Because sometimes people confuse 85% tax. No. It just means that 85% is subject to the tax rate that you're already paying. And that might be 15%, it might be 30%. But we're about to find out right now because everybody's getting their taxes done, right? And I think everybody's taxes went up a little bit.
So Kevin, that
Yes, sir.
provisional income, is that what your health insurance, Part A, Part B?
No,
Part B are based on?
No, it has nothing to do with anything real at all except for this Social Security calculation.
Okay.
It means nothing else at all.
Okay.
It's just
So
part of that.
Your adjusted income is used to determine how much you pay for your Part B and Part D insurance.
Yes, on your Medicare. That's right, yes. But this is completely separate from that calculation, yeah. Any other questions about this? Okay, some excluded sources, for instance, so that you can take income, and that income does not count toward your provisional income, because remember that we don't want that. So Roth IRA distributions, those are not included. Non-taxable pensions and annuities, what are those? Anybody got a non-taxable pension? Does that even exist? Right? What about a non-taxable annuity? Does that exist? Well, I got some people here who have them. Here's how that works. Let's just say you take $100,000 and you buy an immediate annuity, okay? Right? That immediate annuity is going to immediately start paying you back a payment. And let's just say it's $1,000 a month. I know those numbers don't work. But you're getting $1,000 a month. Well, they may if you're 90. And you're getting $1,000 a month. Part of that money coming back to you is your principal. Part of it is interest. But there's this thing called the exclusion ratio. And let's say the exclusion ratio is 85%. I know we're getting these numbers confused. But what that means is 85% of the check that you just got is a return of your principal, and it's not taxable. That other 15% is taxable. So that 15% goes into your provisional income calculation, but that other 85% does not go into your provisional income calculation.
So that annuity is purchased with after-tax?
That annuity would be purchased with after-tax money. That's right. If you do it with IRA money, it's going to be 100% taxable, and that wouldn't help, right? But that's what they mean by a non-taxable annuity. It's not fully non-taxable, but it's largely non-taxable. And then, of course, inheritances and gifts. Anybody got that coming? Anybody got some large gifts, inheritances coming down the pike? No? Okay. So those things are left out of the calculation, and so that's one of the things that we look at. It's difficult because you see if you're over $45,000, I mean you're in it, So it's really difficult to get that number low. But if you've got someone who, like a widow, who's kind of right there in that sort of between 15 to 20% taxes, you can try to help her sometimes.
Already working into the algorithm of the tax preparers forms that they have.
That's correct.
One number, it automatically.
That's right.
Does all the
That's
time.
right. That's why you have to, this is tax exempt interest, et cetera, because all those go into the program to come out with the taxability of the Social Security. That's right. Do you know how long the tax code is now? How many pages? You want to take a stab at it? Huh?
2 million pages.
We're working on it. 200,000 to 212,000. Well, I don't know, but over 65,000 pages. 65,000 pages. So, it's beyond ridiculous. I mean, it really is. So, these are some mistakes that we see a lot. Ignoring the spousal or survivor benefits. I've seen cases where somebody will come into me and he's getting say, $1,500 or $1,800, and she's only getting $400. What's wrong with that? She should be getting half of his, right? She's getting $400. That's her own benefit. She never thought to ask, well, 50% of his is twice as much as mine, right? So she left that money on the table. Or survivor benefits, but a lot of times we see that spousal benefit.
Are you able to, when you make such a mistake, are you able to get retroactive benefits?
Sometimes. And I wish I had a bright line rule for you, but I have heard it's kind of happenstance depending on who you get and what the circumstances are. Right? I mean, it doesn't seem like there's okay, if this happens, then that will happen. In fact, someone told me today that they were getting benefits for their mother, and they couldn't get any retroactive benefits at all, and they should have. They were entitled to them, but they didn't get them. Claiming too early, taking that money at 62. Claiming too late, waiting till after 70. I have a doctor, he just retired from the VA at age 72, Well, he should have been taking his money at 70, right? And I don't think we're just not going to be able to recoup any of that he should have taken. He didn't need the money, but we could have given it to charity or something, Forgetting about those earnings limits, ignoring the impact of taxes. It's one of the things that we do a lot of times. How many knew about the provisional income calculation and how wacky that is, right? You did. Probably one other person, Gordon maybe. But yeah, a lot of people are surprised by that. Not getting professional advice. We have some software, and most of you are already taken Social Security, it's too late. But if you're not, we have some software that allows us to do a maximizer. The only thing we don't know for sure is when you're going to die, So you got to try to come up with that if you can. So, conclusion. Oh, Aaron here. Yes, Dale.
I just looked up the information on that Social Security. So 34.3% take it at age 62. Over 50% of people will take it before full retirement age, and only 3.7% take it at age 70.
Wow. So only 3.7% wait till age 70. And over 50% take it earlier than full retirement age. And a clear third of them are taking it as early as they can. Not smart. Not smart. But we're talking about that. How many of you in high school had financial planning in high school? Okay. Yeah. How many of you had financial planning in college? Who taught you to balance a checkbook? Your mother, your parents probably, and they're probably still writing checks. So the things that we can do, we can analyze where you currently are. Now again, this is for people who are not quite yet on Social Security. We can help you understand those benefits, what benefits you might have. We can come up with a financial strategy that includes, your Social Security, but also pensions, 401k plans, IRAs, all those other things, Roth IRAs, and such. And then try to come up with a strategy so that we're able to maximize our lifetime benefits. Obviously, the way to do that is for both of you to wait till age 70 and both of you live to age 120, right? That would be ideal, but life gets in the way. I tell people, listen, if you live long enough, it'll kill you. Any questions? I mean, Social Security, not our most complex subject, not the most exciting subject. Most of you already have it. And hopefully most of you will, and all of you will be able to collect Social Security for a long, long, long time to go. And we'll all be solvent. That's my dream. Any questions? Yes, Dale?
Probably one of the biggest questions I get is, will Social Security still be there? What are the chances of it going away in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years?
Yeah, I think the chances of zero. It's not going to go away, you know. And here's why. You know, 2/3 of our budget is social services, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, all those healthcare items. 2/3 of our budget. And what is our budget? It's about $4 trillion. It's about $4 trillion. $2 trillion of that money we actually get in taxes and tariffs and things that the government, it's student loan interest. That's one of our big items that we get. The other $2 trillion comes from what? Just debt. No, just going into more debt. And then how are we paying for that debt? No, we're just printing the money. Yeah. This has happened many, many times in history before. Many, many times. The Ottoman Empire, the Roman Empire, Weimar Republic, I mean, it's down in Venezuela. It happens all over the place. The thing that America had that was so great was that after World War II, we were the only game in town. We were the world's reserve currency. Every single country in the world wanted US dollars. I was in Moscow in 1993, and I could buy anything I wanted with US dollars. And I had a hard time buying things with rubles, right? I could buy rubles in the state shops, but if I wanted something on a Batskia or something else that was like, you know, a sort of a premier item, like a Heineken, for instance, you had to use dollars, you know? You could walk down the streets in Angola, buy anything you want with dollars. In the backwoods of Vietnam, anything you want with dollars, you know? And it's still like that to an extent. But after World War II, we had that exclusive benefit. And we really have ruined it because we no longer are the exclusive reserve currency in the world. The dollar used to be the reserve currency. If Germany wanted to buy oil from Saudi Arabia, they had to take their German marks and first transfer them into dollars. And then they could take those dollars to Saudi Arabia and buy oil. That's how they did it, called the petrodollar, right? But now there's something called the special drawing right. Anybody heard of the special drawing right? The special drawing right, yes, you have. The special drawing right now is the new reserve currency, no longer the dollar. The dollar is in part of it, it's a basket, but it contains the dollar, the British pound, the euro, and now the Chinese yuan, and also the yen. And so that's what all of these countries are now holding as their reserve currencies. So the dollar is a big part of that, but we're no longer the only show in town, you know. And it's because of our mismanagement of our own balance sheet that other countries have decided that, you know what, dollar, it's not necessarily stable to hold dollars. If I buy $1 billion in treasuries and then they just go and print another $1 billion, half of my savings were just diluted. You see that? It's the same thing for us in our own pockets. But it's also the same thing for large governments across the world, you know. So shame on us because we had a great thing going. And we can print a little bit as we go, you know, cheat a little bit. When you cheat a lot and everybody sees it, then the game's up. That's what we've done. You know? Any questions about anything else? The market? Yes, sir.
This accumulation of debt, do you think there's ever going to be a day of reckoning?
There's always a day of reckoning. Yes, absolutely.
We're not going to deal with it, but it's the massive accumulation that keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
What do you think the consequences of that are going to be?
It's going to be terrible. I mean, I don't know how long this is going to go on. Let's look at, if we look at Japan right now, Japan is twice as bad as we are. We have, say, 20 trillion in debt, 22. They have double that amount. So their debt to GDP ratio is 200%. Our debt to GDP ratio is 100%. That means our debt is 100% of our income. Their debt is 200% of their income. And they are paying negative interest rates. So think about that. You've got institutions mainly that are paying interest on money that they're loaning just for it to be safe. In their mind, that's the Japanese won. Now, we over here in America are paying positive interest rates, right? And we have half the debt service that they do. So we are a better deal if you're looking at it objectively from a money manager's perspective. Money usually goes where it's treated best, right? And if I can go to Germany and have to pay them interest, or I can go to the United States and actually get paid interest, what am I going to do? If I'm a franc or a euro or whatever, I'm going to go over to America, right? And that's one of the problems that we've seen because our dollar has been screaming. Our dollar is way higher now than it's against other currencies. You know, look at the euros, the Canadian dollar, the Australian dollar, the New Zealand dollar, the euro, I just said that. But any of the others, the pound, British pound, we're really doing well in terms of the strength of the dollar. The problem is that hurts our exports because people outside our country don't want to buy our stuff because it's too expensive. So that hurts our exports. So everything's a double-edged sword.
The last big bubble stock market rising really is not the fundamentals, it's the money pouring in from foreign countries into our economy that's buoyed up.
You can't point to a single item. It's a multitude of things that are working. But like right now, we see now, I don't know if you guys remember my letter, I was talking about the fallen angels, the triple B rated companies. Like 50% of our stock market is at triple B in terms of their underlying bonds. That's just one rung away from junk. Ford just got downgraded to junk. But there's a whole list of companies that are coming up now that are going to start getting downgraded. And what does that mean? Well, it means that the people who are owning their bonds that can only own investment-grade bonds are going to have to sell them. And they only have a few, maybe a month or two. Well, who is that? Well, there's pension plans, college endowments, things like that, large institutions. Fidelity, Vanguard, T. Rowe Price, Voya, all of those who are holding investment-grade bonds. If you have an investment-grade bond fund and you're only holding investment-grade bonds and some of those are downgraded and they're no longer investment-grade, but your mandate is to only own investment-grade, what do you have to do? You got to sell them, but not just you. Harvard, Yale, State of Arizona, the pension plan of GE, the school system of Fulton County, everybody's got to sell them at the same time. The price plummets. So what happened in 2008 with municipal bonds? Remember that? So we're just living through the whole thing again. This time we have the coronavirus. That was the impetus. But what's happening behind the scenes is we're going to see bad numbers come out. Even if the virus is completely cured tomorrow, and everybody's cured absolutely tomorrow, this financial fallout has only just begun. Okay? The good news is that if you're our client, you're mostly in treasuries. And treasuries are screaming. They're at an all-time high. So we're making money there hand over fist. And that's where most of our money is. 60, 70% of it's there. Yeah. Any questions? Appreciate everybody listening to me. I want you to have a great lunch. Don't go anywhere else. Don't come back. Stay at home. Take care of yourself. Wash your hands. Okay, you know all the rules, right? I'll see you soon. Love you all.